Hello, and good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and wherever you are, welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensael Bob. And here it is. What is it? Wednesday? Oh, probably the 16th, I think. And I'm got one foot in the woods and one foot on the bop. And kindness is the major way humanity is going to get out of this mess we're in alive. You know, breathing deep, going into meditative state, and seeing ourselves in the kindest um, element that we can be in. And that is being consciously intent of our service to love's co creation. Now, I just watch people zip around and just do all this kind of stuff and don't talk and just blah, blah, blah. I mean, the war in the Ukraine is a good example. Hey, Jane. And the, you know, this little environmental meeting they had, the COP in Egypt, the most militarized, you know, government there is in the East, more than actually, more intense than Syria, more intense than Iraq or Afghanistan or Libya or even Saudi Arabia or the AE, or EA, whatever they are. And the two things that are moving humanity close and close to extinction is the addiction to carbo um, energy and the military industrial banking education media complex, right? And like Egypt, right, they are the third largest purveyor of weapons. What do they need? Who's their enemy? Their people is their enemy, right? So where did they have this cop little meeting? They had it in the nicest, prettiest place in Egypt, and it's like a little town on the side of a lake, and it's really pretty. It's like heaven, and there is nobody there except rich people who go there to relax, right? It's like a Davos, right? And here we are seeing the effect of global warming, and it's affecting the third world more. Look what happened to Pakistan and Africa. And it's affecting the first world. What's happening to the United States? What happened to Kentucky and what happened to um, the capital of Mississippi and what happens to all of California and the West Coast, Oregon and Washington. But these folk, the Davo folk, who are the same as the cop folk and the same as the 20 folk and the 15 folk. I mean, these are all people who really just busy themselves with the unipolar hegemony of the transnational state, right? And they don't think about the well-being or the essence of their brothers and sisters or all our relations, none of the above. So how can we, as seemingly insignificant, take an advantage of folk? First of all, you don't get upset, right? Breathe nice and deep. I mean, there are people around me all the time that could like just twiddle my tubes, but I don't. Right? So, you know, um, the bottom line is having love's co-creation in our heart. That's God. Love's co-creation is God. You know, I much rather call it love's co-creation than calling it God because it gives it God. The word God has too much luggage, right? Um, because we have no idea. We call it by so many names, Allah, God, Vishnu, you name it. It loves co-creation. Its children, made in the image and likeness, we are the reflection of that love. But we have a free will, so we can be dickheads as much as we want to be, right? But it doesn't really make your life any better, right? And it looks like we've had a really amazing Indian summer up until last week. Last Thursday, like a light switch, it changed, right? Now we haven't had any snow. There's snow all around us, but there's no snow here in the deep green. And that is the issue. Is what can we do to in every day and every way take the piece of the earth and make it stronger? We can have love in our heart and we can have forgiveness in our mind, right? And that's where we need to be. And then once we do that, we can take simple physical steps, you know. China is about to really hit the skids big time because when Henry Kissinger and Nixon went to China and saw Mao, who was almost dead, you know, and everyone in the Politburo in China knew that what Mao had done for the last 40 years didn't do any good. It killed a lot of people, like 60 million of his people. He starved to death, but it wasn't any great revolution. And so they just wanted to get people out of starvation. So when Henry and Nixon said, "Okay, listen, we're going to offer you a great deal. You can stay in power. You can keep whatever you want. Your country is your country. We're going to move all of our manufacturing of shit into your country. We're going to give you the money to do it. We're going to give you the hardware to do it. We're going to give you the technology to do it. We're going to give you the avenues of access to resources to do it. And we are going to give you the markets, the United States and Europe, to sell that shit." And they did. 35 years. They went from the Stone Age, everyone starving, to a modern industrial world. The only problem is once you can't sell that shit to the world, uh, you have a big crash, and that's what England did to the United States with the revolution. They moved their industrial thing over to us. We manufactured all their crap, plus gave them resources that they needed, and they built their world empire on that, right? And then also used us as a market, right? So, um, because they did what the founding fathers didn't want them to do, and that was they brought in the finances, right? They basically owned the means of production, right? So China is going to find itself like within the next few years, no one's going to buy their shit, right? And they aren't a great military power, and they aren't a great technological power. They steal everything because we got them addicted to that because for the first 25 years of that 30 something years, we gave them everything. And then we kind of weaned back and we let all their young, smart, sharp people come into America, go to MIT and Stanford and Harvard. But those guys stayed in America and made, companies here. I mean, just look at all of Silicon Valley, who's working there. And so we got their smartest kids, and they didn't go back. Right? Why would they? You know. Now China was got a hold of mom and dad and grandma back in China. You better come back, or we're going to kill your family. Well, most of those people said, "Screw it. I have a life in America. I got a new wife and kids of my own, and I don't have to stick with one kid. I got three, right?" So, and grandma, they're already dead, and mom, didn't like her too much. So, you know, that's where China is. And China's looking at what Russia's second largest, military in the world, you know, all the resources you could ever want, and industrial might and economic might, and they're being brought to their knees by this little teeny country called Ukraine, right? Now we are, banking them and giving them every weapon, and from the Minsk agreement, which we just tore up the minute we signed it, and pissed the Russians off. Um, you know, and then they backed some people in the Donbass, to have a little, we want our freedom. We're Russians, and so they, for the last 8 years, have been doing that. All that has been a live fire exercise for the Ukrainian army, right? And we've taken off their people and trained them in the United States and England and other places to be up to NATO skill. And then we gave them NATO weapons like man pads, man anti-aircraft missiles, and javelin, take out their tanks, and they stopped the Russians. The Russians thought, oh, we just kind of cruise in and lop off the head of the president and take over. Right? No, didn't happen. Right? Because the Ukrainians had 70,000 extremely well trained soldiers, and another 120 that were, soldiers, but not as well trained as that 70,000. And then another 200,000 guys who would be ready to put on the uniform. And so that's what so that 70,000 stopped the Russians in their plan because they had access to our command and control, all our spy satellites. We saw where the Russians were putting people together. We were listening to what they were going to do. The Russians, showed how incompetent and unbelievable. So right now, Russia is looking at, yes, they went to the other side of that big river, gave up that big city, and that's a big whoop-de-doo. Now, the Ukrainians aren't going to run after them. They may send, 20,000 of their super duper spear headed kind of guys who can go in and do asymmetrical warfare and make the Russians' life miserable over the winter in that section of the Donbass and the east, and all the Russians can do is lob artillery and cruise missiles, which they're running out of, right? And I don't understand why the Ukrainians during World War II, England had the same issue with Germany. Germany had V2s and V1s, right? And so what did they do? They put up barrier balloons, right? Balloons with big steel cables. Well, that's all the Ukrainians have to do is put balloons and big steel cables around all of their, utilities, um, um, facilities. I don't understand why they're not doing that. And so, again, these guys aren't fighting a war to win it so much as to destroy Russia and turn it into Disneyland, right? And and so it's going to push Russia sometime around March or May, where they've been used up, right? And they will either have to do what they did in Afghanistan and just leave, which will be very embarrassing, and or try to go all in militarily, and that they'll lose their shirt on that one because they've been going, not even going in full in, and they're it just shows the incompetence of the level up. Not only the incompetence of their leadership, but they just haven't kept their tanks and trucks and things up to snuff. They don't even do servicing, right? So, and they don't have logistics. Morons talk about strategy. People who win wars talk about logistics. So that's the facts on the ground. Now, don't believe a word I say. And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Al Bob. Here we are, 14 minutes and 14 seconds. And I first want to say thank you to everyone who, Sunray, good to see you, guy. Miss Jane is here with us, and I want to thank everyone for sending whatever they could to my PayPal over the years, right? Um, you know, these are gifts you're sending me, and I appreciate the gift, right? It's not, and it always just gets to me just when I need it. It's very magical, right? So thank you for that. And if you want to send me more, that would be, I could really, it's getting towards that Christmas time, your Sensei Al Bob. He's going to be on the bop. It's going to be cold, and he has no idea where he's going, right? He's going to spread love and cheer and goodwill and the process of bringing peace on earth, goodwill to man, right? That's what your Sensei Bob is going to do for the winter, right? And I'm not going down south. Well, I may. I have no idea where I'm going. So we're going to see. Let's see. So remember, that's the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail, Dude Awake 42 at Gmail, Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. Okay. Let's see. Let's give old John Boy a phone call. Let's see if he answers the phone. Ooh. Okay, let's see what happens. Phone is ringing. Hey, John. Hey, I can't hear you. Are you there? There you are. Are you there? There you are. Okay. So I'm getting my act together. I should be coming your way in a week or two. And what do you want to do?
I don't know. It's up to God because I was maybe gonna go to Texas, but I don't know how I'm gonna be there for my kids.
Well, we just get on the airplane and we go see your kids, and I'll be with you. I'll be your comic relief. I'll be your foil.
Well, the thing is that you cost money,
right? That's true. I have none, right? So, but think of what that money is worth. Mental health, your well-being, your friendship. I mean, no, you'll always be my friend. You don't have to give me money to be your friend, but we can do something see, John, as long as I've known you, really known you since you got to school, that's about, what was that, 2015, right? So that's like almost 7 years. You have done the same thing over and over and over again. You got to try something new.
I've gotten way more kind of a human being.
You have, you have brought Jesus and God into your heart and mind.
When I used to lift weights,
yep.
Sometimes I didn't mean this.
I know.
And sometimes I did, but often I was just working out and being in shape. But now I never work out and mean this.
Well, that's good. Because John, you're not a mean person. You're not a mean person.
It's a way that I can stop, that I don't have to get cancer. I don't have to have a hurt body. I don't have to get old or too hurt from being too heavy and out of shape, where I can keep kind of working at those same weights that I was doing before, when I was like really pushing it and trying, and I had built the muscle and stuff at one time.
Yeah.
But I don't do it now. I just kind of keep doing some of the same stuff that I did, and you try to eat healthy. And
right, eating is 90%. I'm in pretty good shape and a pretty good weight. Is that I don't eat a lot. I don't have the money to eat.
Yeah.
I don't buy a lot of food.
Yeah, you're pretty healthy.
I'm pretty healthy for as banged up as my body is, and as how old I am. I'm just a few years younger than your parents. Your dad and my brother are the same age. My older sister is older than both of your parents.
Oh.
So
is she near 80? Is she 80 or 70?
Yeah, she's in her 80s, yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Some people can look okay in their 80s. When they're 80,
my parents look pretty good, and they were in their. My mom was 103 when she died, and she still looked great.
No.
She was ready to go, but she still looked great. And my dad, he died at 98. He was in good shape. His body on the inside, he had a lot of things wrong with him, but he looked pretty good. He wasn't fat. He was in pretty good shape, and For being 89, he looked pretty good. So it's more about as our environment is so foul. It's hard not to be poisoned. You know, with the water in the shape it is, the air the shape it is, everything. Where you and I
But I
live.
get the thought from you, like you try to get, like you think with all your thoughts and heart that my body is getting hurt in
No,
really
no,
bad
John. No,
ways.
no, 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 John. You're my friend. I don't think that way. You know.
And I've only gotten those thoughts from you.
No, no,
Like
no. Sorry,
various
John.
parts of my
No,
body,
no,
like
no,
I'm
no, no,
really
no, no,
worried
no,
about. Like
no,
you
no.
try
Why
to
would you
have
say
me
that? Why, why,
accept it
why would you?
as,
Why
and
would you
like
say
you
that?
try to make it like use the secret
Why
or the
would you?
law of
Why?
attraction
No,
to
no,
make it
John.
like
No,
become a
John.
new problem. You want it to become a problem for me or
No,
something in
I, no,
real
I
life,
don't. No. Why would I
and
do
have
that?
me accept it and be at
Why would
peace
I
with
do
like
that, John?
a knife going
Why,
through
why,
some,
why are you?
some
If God is
horrific
in your
thing,
heart and Jesus is in your mind, why would you be saying this at this time?
because that's how it felt around you sometimes.
Well, could that have been maybe a projection of yourself? I mean, you were feeling it. I wasn't feeling that. John, when I was around you, and still to this day, you're my friend. I care about you. I want only the best. I never, secretly send a message to hurt you. No, don't do that.
Uh,
That's not part of my
I don't
mo.
do. I don't do anything mean anymore.
Uh huh. Well, what was that you
But
just said? I mean, that was a
some
mean
people,
statement.
because that's how I felt. I put my legs up, and it felt. I was laying back on the bed. I put up my legs to where my knees were facing up, and I pulled my feet back to where my knees are facing up in like a triangle.
Right.
Feet were flat on the bed,
Yeah.
and it felt like the backs of my thighs. It felt like you were cutting into it, trying to visualize with all your trying to make it a reality of it going in through my entire leg, like it was totally destroying or cutting into my leg, like it was gonna, like you try to think of that hurting me with all your might. And before, when you were downstairs, the reason why I had to kick you out is because you tried to do it to various parts. I felt that way about various parts of my body just being around you, and you said it verbally in the ways you were talking to pretend that that was really happening to various parts of my body, like it was going through my body or something. And something
How
was
can you
putting
prove
my
that?
body.
I mean, that makes no sense. That is not part of
In the
reality.
words that you said,
That's
in the words that you said.
well, John. What if you look at all the videos you made of me at the time that you amortized, um, I didn't ever say anything of that nature. John, all the times you would get scream and yell, I would be patient and listen to what you
I
were
don't
saying and then
know what
try to help you.
amortized.
I mean, I always, was there
Don't
for
want to
you. I,
accept it.
I did all your shopping and ran your errands and,
I'm
and made
turning the
you
phone
really good
off.
food. So right there, right. Lacan, who was like the French Freud, basically stated whenever anyone is accusing you of something, they're really actually talking about themselves. Right? So there's John. Now, John, you listen, go back and listen to this. He started off really sweet and nice. That he's become really back. He used to think exercise with all this hate in his heart and become a big monster. And then Jesus and God came to him, and now he's a really nice guy. Now he's always really nice, right? Well, John has always been really nice. That's who he really is. What he is very successful. You know, he is affected by his environment around him. We all are, but if we can be conscious, aware, that's when you know things are different. That's when you get perspective. You go, let's see what you guys are saying. Wow, it's John. Yep, fish. Hey, fish. Uh, let's see who else we can talk to. Do, 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 do. So today's, you know, um, show is about kindness. What is kindness? Let's see if we can get a hold of our friend here, Mr. Magic. Uh, Now he's probably at work, and if he's not doing anything, he'll pick up, but otherwise he won't. Seems he may not pick up. Okay, we'll try him a little later. It's 3:21. Let's go to our friend in Miss J. See what Miss J is up to. She might be at work too.
Hello.
Oh, there she is. Haven't talked to you in the longest of times.
I know, it's been way too long.
Yep. So, I special guest.
Oh, nice.
Just wanted and today's show is about kindness.
Kindness.
Yep.
Well, it's easy to be kind, isn't it?
If you let your ego go. Yes.
Yes.
If you don't let your ego go, it's not too easy.
That's very true.
So that's it. I mean, we are built to be kind, but we are kind of hornswoggled by our egos.
Yes, we are definitely, it's ingrained in us from our parents and their parents and society to be
a dickhead.
Yes, egotistical.
Yep, dickhead. And you just look at the world around. I mean, the war between Russia and Ukraine makes no sense. There is no reason for that to be going on, except those people being dickheads, right? And not only them, but the people who kind of are egging them on, right? It's like a schoolyard fight between two, and the real people who are doing it are the people all around them egging them on, right? And so then you look at the environmental scene, right? And they're having this, environmental meeting in Egypt, right? Egypt, which is one of the largest, it as a country, due to its GDP, spends the third most on weapons, and they have no real, enemies, right? Who are their enemies? Are their own people. And so, they're having this meeting about the environment in the nicest place in Egypt, way up on the mountains where this lake is. It's like Davos. So there's no way for the people to go in the street there, right? So it'll all look nice. And the biggest thing about the meeting was this: they were supposed to talk about how to help the third world deal, like all those little islands in the Pacific that are going underwater. Um, that part of right above India that used to be India had terrible floods and lost thousands of people, and they're going to starve because they haven't been able to put food in the ground. Africa, and even in the first world, the whole west coast of America, you had some nasty rain, right? Your capital went underwater, right? So they're not talking about how to fix any of that. And so where they have a space where they normally have NGOs where people from all over the world come that are all about trying to fix global warming, all that. Well, Egypt won't let any of those people come, and in that normal space where they put all of those people, they have only oil companies there. They have 600 oil companies there talking to all those people about the environment. So I just gave you like a little picture of unkindness, right? They don't have to be that way, right? And so how do you see the world around you acting like that, and conversely, acting kind?
Um, I tend to avoid the negativity and the unkindness. I just don't allow it. I don't give it space in my my head and my heart and my time. I just avoid it. You know, if I can, how do I say it, calm a situation or change it for the better, if I, feel like I have the ability to do that by saying something or stepping up or speaking my mind, then I do. But if not, then I just choose to spend my time elsewhere.
Right. And that, for as a individual, that is
I
it.
don't pay a whole lot of attention to politics
Right,
and
right, right. As an
all of that.
individual, that is a wise. Oh, we just lost her. Didn't want to go any deeper than that. We'll try and get her back. We'll see if she answers the phone. She may not have wanted to go any deeper than that. Uh, uh, yeah, come on, phone. Well, let's see. Somebody else. Let's try Joseph.
Public library. How may I help you?
Oh, public libraries. Joseph around.
No, he's out of the office today. Can somebody else help you?
Oh no, I was just checking in on him. I will try tomorrow. He gonna be around tomorrow?
I'm not sure, to be honest, but you can always try.
Okay, and I have his other number. I'll try that. Well, thank you for everything you do.
Well, you're welcome.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye. So that's where Joseph works in the library. He is like the head historian. So he can have banker's hours when he wants. Let's see if we'll try his phone. Do, do, do. Hmm. Do, 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 do. There we go. Let's try that one. Oh, so Miss J, she's a very sweet person, and as she says, she kind of ignores all of that, which is, you can do that, but by doing that, you just kind of, my sisters kind of do that, right? And they have their own little worldview on things. I have one sister who's like a super duper born again, super duper Christian. My other sister has a big family, and she's got like 6 kids, and her 6 kids have 6 kids, and they all live like in a compound together. It's like almost having her own cult, and so she's as comfortable as she needs to be. And she's like me, white. She went to college. She smart-ish, and she's her kids are all white, and they all went to college somewhat, and all have pretty good jobs. Half of them are pretty go-getters and have businesses and things like that. The other third are folk who have pretty good paying jobs, and And so, and like I said, when you have a group of people all kind of supporting each other, and a lot of them are doing pretty good, you can get by. But she lives right on the coast, right near New York City, surrounded by super duper. I mean, she's on this little pimple of peninsula, but everything around her is oil refineries and chemical factories and that kind of stuff for like the last 100 years. So the water table of that area is like, oh. And if that, they've had a couple of major floods because she's like, there's the water right there. And it has risen. She's lived there maybe 30 years now. And in those 30 years, where there used to be a beach, it's in the water. Where there used to be, a fence and trees, it's in the water. Where there used to be a park, it's in the water. And now there's a house and there used to be a street there. It's kind of where the water is, and then the house is above it. But not hers. Hers is a couple of blocks, but still, it's pretty flat. And so, but she doesn't think anything about the environment, anything about the corporate world, anything about the wars, anything about anybody except her little cult. Right? And again, that works okay, but you can be like John. John is a good example. He is the canary in the coal mine, right? We started out pretty good. Jesus is in the heart, and God's in his head, or the other way around, and he's doing pretty good. And I said, well, why don't we do something? But you cost me money. As he gets like $1,000 a week from his folks. He's not really worried about money. And then he said, but you attack me. I feel you. I was just laying in bed and you're attacking. How could I attack him? I'm not Harry Potter, and Harry Potter would do it. I'm not the guy who you don't mention. Anyway, what do you guys say? So let's try fish. Fish always has something interesting to say. Here she is. Boop, boop, boop.
Hey, this is Angie. I can't take your call right now. Leave me your name and number, and I'll get back to you. Hey. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hey, sweetie, just checking in. I see you're on the show there, so I was going to put you on the show, but you're probably busy doing something else. Fish is very good at multitasking, right? Okay, honey bun, I'll talk to you later. I just happen to have some bars here, so I'm trying to call folks and put them on the show. Talk to you later. I haven't talked to this boy in a while. He never answers the phone, but he just might. Might be about lunchtime, his time, he might. No, he's not going to answer. Let's see, who else can we call? Oh. The amazing girl. Let's see if she answers. Normally she doesn't. And it's probably 3 o'clock. It's probably lunchtime around her time.
I'm sorry.
No. Okay, who else? Oh, Max. Yeah, let's try him. Oh, let's see. Okay. Mm. Oh, everyone's busy. So, what do you guys have to say? Call me. Do I need vetting? No, you don't need vetting, Jane. Did you send me your phone number on my email? Let's see. I'll check my email. Let's see. So, Jane, send me your phone number now if you want me to give you a ring a ding ding. I'd love to call you right now, put you on the show. Let's see. I know you emailed me already. I can't find. Oh, there you are. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Jane, I am sending you an email. Send me your phone number. Doo-doo. Let's see. That was you, Jane. TikTok. Yeah, I'm not a big TikTok fan. Oh well. Where's the volume on this stuff? She wants me to install something. Nope, not going to do it. Just say no to installations. Oh, here we go. Okay. Thank you, Jane. I got your phone number. Let's see if this works. Okay, here we are. We're going to call Jane. Got her number in there.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed has calling restrictions that have prevented the completion of your call. Announcement 19. We're sorry, the number you have dialed has calling restrictions that have prevented.
Jane, your number has calling restrictions. Yep, I dialed the right number. Let's see what else you have to say about that. I just tried to call you, and you've got calling restrictions. But now I got your phone number, so you might have seen what my phone number was when I was calling you. And why don't you call me? Okey doke. Do-do-do-do. Anyway, so like I said, Jane, give me a buzz. If I can't call you, you can call me. So, how long have we been doing this? 48 minutes. Solid. Oh, I like it when it's a round number. So there's 2 thumbs up. Thanks for that. So I'm waiting for you to call me Jane, right? She says okay. What happens? Do, do, do. So, right here, Jane. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. I'm calling Jane. There's hardly a bar. That may be a problem. Yeah. Anyway. Well, Jane, I'll try and call you later. If the phone gods don't let it work out. I have your number now. You have mine, I'm sure, because I called you and it says okay. So anyway, so kindness, back to kindness, right? When I turned up the car, warmed up enough. So that's really the path that we need to find. I mean, we are human beings. We are this bag of water with trace elements, right? And we have these emotions that are guided by chemicals, pheromones, hormones, all kinds of moans, and it can, piss. You can get pissed off, you can get upset, you can all the rest, right? And but you don't have to go there, because with kindness, you don't have to go there. Period. Right? So. Uh, Let's see. So, Jane, are you in America? Is that an American phone number? I'm going to text you, Jane. Well, I got a few more bars again, Jane. Why don't you why don't you text me? What phone number do you have for me? Text it to me on my email. Just trying to call you. No, I pretty much I don't look at the phone number. If it rings, I mean, I can't see it. So if it rings, I pick it up. And if I don't hear someone say, something sweet and nice, I kind of go, Canada. Yeah, that might be it. My phone can't call America. I can only call, I have a $20 a month Walmart's phone. So it doesn't dial out. That's the restriction. I can't dial out. So if you got my phone number, which I think you probably did, if you said you did, it ends in 44. The last two numbers of my phone number end in 4. At least on this one, end in 44. So give that a buzz. Having limited resources, here's another good time. And thanks for sending me things to PayPal. And if you want to send me something to PayPal, just send it to the dudeawake42 at Gmail. Dudeawake42 at Gmail. Dudeawake42 at Gmail. Canada. Oh, I love Canada. And, Canada is like as fascist as America, maybe even a little bit more. That Trudeau guy, I think he's a Stepford wife. I used to go to Toronto a lot. I really love Toronto. Toronto is a city that has the underground subways that have rubber tires, right? I think it is anyway. And I used to go to whatever, Montreal, Toronto, one of those two cities. I think it's Toronto. Toronto's the one on the East Coast, right? Not too far from Vermont. Anyway, I'm pretty much, I'm an Aquarian, right? And an Aquarian is a fixed sign. So what's really interesting is that we don't want to ever get stuck, right? But in our effort not to be stuck, it's like we've got an anchor. So we kind of move around. The anchor's like in one place, and we kind of go around it. so it's very interesting. And as you get to my age, you become, you think about all the things you've done and what you could have done different, right? And so, as I look at it, I was very lucky that and blessed that I had all of these great mentors and teachers when I was younger. Between you know birth and 32ish, right? And no, that's not my number, Jane. Nope, that's not it. The one that you put the question marks. I'm gonna send you what my phone number is. I'm trusting you, Jane, that you're not some terrible troll, but it won't matter because often my phone, I don't have enough money to have it running. So and those are usually the good things about not having money. Let's see. So I'm gonna send you my little phone number right now. Here it is. Let's see. See, and the other thing is my fingers are so big that I don't often hit the right numbers. Okay, that's it. Okay, Jane, I'm trusting you. I don't have a phone signal right at the moment, but yep, the number I sent you is the one. Perhaps this. Oh boy. Yep. Anyway. So kindness. Well, why don't we just get back to the show? We fooled around enough with technology, right? And that's a great metaphor. See how it doesn't quite work. It doesn't really give you what you want it to be, what you expect it to be, right? There is no such. The only safety, the only happiness, the only contentment is love's co-creation. Everything else is an illusion, right? And if you go back and watch this show and listen to what John was saying, and John, basically, I've known John. I probably know John better than anybody, better than his parents, better because kind of trained to suss people out. I spent a good 2.5, 3 years with him, and I saw him in every motif he had. Hello. Oh, let me turn the volume up here. Oh, hold on. There you are. There you are.
What's up?
Hey, is that you, Jane?
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, there she is. It worked. It took some effort, but it worked.
It worked.
So Jane, you've been watching the show for how long? Years or just a few months or how long?
No, years, Bob.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So so our subject is so you've seen all the different things. You saw me doing the show when I lived at John's, right?
It was really interesting. I enjoyed it. You're talking nice and how to be, and I think
Yes. Are you moving around or am I?
no, I think it might be me. I'm in a. Here. There we go.
Okay.
So, anything new?
No, same old same. I mean, and that is one of the major complaints of humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you a big fan of Shakespeare? Oh, what was the one? The guy who's the Prince of Denmark and he kills everyone. His name's
Hamlet?
Hamlet, right? At the end of the Hamlet, he kills everyone, and I mean, he's just a psycho. I mean, he believes everything a ghost is telling him. Really,
Yeah.
you're gonna start a war over that, and he kills everyone, and he's in the throne room with his good buddy, and his buddy's bouncing around, going, "Oh wow, we won, we won." Oh, Hamlet, why are you so upset? Why are you so dour? I mean, you're a dour guy, but you should be happy. And Hamlet goes, tomorrow. They go, what do you mean tomorrow? Tomorrow and tomorrow. What? And that's what Hamlet was saying. He did all this shit thinking that
Well,
that it would
for Lawrence Olivier.
yeah, tomorrow and tomorrow. And
I
that's
remember that scene.
yeah, and that's the most important line is because he did all this shit thinking it would make him happy. And once he got what he thought was going to make him happy, he was miserable.
Uh-huh.
And
So, didn't his dad try to kill him?
no, in the dream, his stepfather tried to kill him, but only because he tried to kill him. Meaning,
Yeah, incest.
and it started from a dream that he had talking to his ghost father, who said, your mother was fooling around with your uncle, and then they killed me and became, he had no proof of that,
Uh,
you know.
yes, to be or not to be. That is the question.
That is the question, exactly. And that's why Shakespeare is the guy he is, because he really does bring forth the deeper side of what we're doing here,
Exactly.
and
Yes,
and some
slings and arrows.
yeah, and our show today is about kindness, right? That's what I'm talking about, right? And that's why
Yeah.
that's what we're here to do, is to be kind, right?
Yeah. And the kindness comes from the heart.
Right.
I mean, that's where we're supposed to live. We're supposed to, and a lot of times they're negating people's feelings. And I think it's so important to understand people's feelings so that we can be kind. And then that is a communication we're lacking, sadly.
Empathy.
And we need to, yes. And I think, why is it that we've come to this point in our existence as humanity?
Well, the real, just as Shakespeare said, I mean, it's like it's the same old same. It's not like we've risen or gotten to a higher plane. We're actually kind of de-evolving. Remember Devo? Do 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 do.
Yes.
Crack
Oh, I
crack.
sure do.
Yeah.
80s.
And so we're de-evolving. I mean, when you look at the ancient societies and civilizations that were, 60, 70, 100,000 years ago, they were way, I mean, those pyramids are still there, and
Uh-huh.
and they represent, did you ever get to go to see anything that old anywhere else?
No.
How about
No.
are there any pyramids or mounds or First Peoples anything in your neighborhood?
Yeah, you're right. There's pyramids under Lake Michigan, and we used to go through Lake Michigan to get to
a town called Wawa, which is north of Lake Superior, where we lived.
Right.
And I just found out that there were, I don't know if they're Miami natives that did that, but you know the Mississippi natives
Right.
that were
Exactly.
doing those, and they went all the way up and down. Yeah.
Yep.
So they were, I don't know how it got under the Lake Michigan, but that must have been before the last ice age then.
Yes. Exactement.
10,000 years ago.
Yes. Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
Because the Spanish, the Spanish came to North and South and Central America way before any other Europeans did, right? Like 60 to 100 years before. And they were just looking for gold, They were not looking to build a empire. They just wanted gold. So they were all over the Midwest and all over New England and all over Florida and all over Georgia, all over those places, right? And they came to places, like near Kansas City, where they found cities of 1 million or more human beings
Wow.
that had real sophisticated, and they had no wars and they had no nothing, but they had they had like police, So if you came in there and wanted to do damage, yes, they could take care of you, but they weren't out to go after other people's stuff. And they traded with other people all the way down to Florida, all the way to California, like the Iroquois. They traded with everybody. And when the Spanish got to North America, they infected all of the Indians. So by the time the French and English got to those places, like 60 to 100 years later, everybody was dead.
From smallpox.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My mom would talk about that. I believe my mom was Native.
Right.
Well, she wouldn't tell me that, but she said that all her relatives died like that. And my grandfather, that I never knew, died. His last name was Roy, like Roy, like
Right.
French, like the Voyageurs.
Yep.
And so I'm part Voyager background. That's kind of neat, eh? But so there's a lot of that going along where they would give blankets to people knowing it, like germ warfare, that it would kill.
Yeah, that's what they did to the Cherokee on the Trail of Tears.
Yes.
And so what makes the tribe of the Europeans so darn nasty?
I think that you might have to look at the wars in Europe for centuries, the Viking wars and everything. I mean, they were just like that. I mean, they were cannibalistic.
Right.
I think that might have to stem from eating flesh.
Okay, I can see that. Yes, because the indigenous, I live with a lot of indigenous people. Nobody did that, right? And
I think that there's always been that strain in humans because of the existential angst. I think that because people don't have their daddy here, God being in their world present, they become crazy. And I think it's like a mass insanity, perhaps. And there might be something chemical going on too, like too much,
too much
in the blood.
mead. Too much mead, because our water was so polluted in that 2,000 years between AD and BC. Everyone was buzzed. Everyone was drinking, fermented stuff, because if they drank water, they'd die.
True. Yes, I remember that. And also, they would take a lot of indigenous herbs.
Right.
And that was a spirit world they lived in.
Right.
And we don't understand that world anymore.
Well, you're kind of mixing metaphors. Europeans drank alcohol. The first people who weren't in Europe ate the natural herbs. And
yes. Have you heard of the red people from Lithuania?
Yes.
Or Latvia?
Latvia. Yep.
Yeah, they were mushroom eaters.
Right. And
they would paint themselves red.
But
and there were prophecies. Yeah.
That's the interesting thing, is that Europeans are so mixed up, they don't know who they are.
That's true.
I think that has a lot to do why they're so nasty.
Yeah, identity politics. Yes. What
Yes.
is identity politics? What is that?
Oh,
I
that's
don't understand Americans.
well, that's a
because-
level of stupidity. I mean, Americans again, because one of the strongest thing about the United States is that we're made of all these immigrants, right? We're mutts, and mutts are the strongest, right? But when you have a singular small group of white men that constantly rule, no matter what the rules are, I mean, they rule because of the golden rule. Who has the gold rules. And so they have the gold, and they are constantly changing the rules all the time.
Oh, that's why you have secret societies like the Skull and Bones,
Yeah, exactly.
so that you can keep power covertly by sinister means, like the old sacrifice ideas. You
Right.
know,
And
bog.
yes,
They would throw, like, they had too many kids, so they throw some in the bog because they couldn't
Right.
afford them. And now they're just transferred to today, where they take a family member that they don't like, and they pretty well, you know. And that could be like the group telling them to do that. We would never know this.
right.
There's so much we don't know. This could be, you know, because a lot of things don't make sense, so something else is happening.
But see, what's truly interesting about all of this is that none of it can be hidden, right? And all you have to do is step away from your prejudice and take the big picture, and you can kind of see what's going on.
Oh yeah,
Meaning,
yeah.
you know, I'm no, you know, I'm not a rocket. Well, I guess I am a rocket scientist, but I'm not any more exceptional than anyone. Except I know how to step back and take the big picture in. That's one of my skill sets, right? That's what I used to get paid
Right.
pretty good for. And I don't have a
Mhm.
prejudice. That's the other thing. I grew up in New York City. That had the beauty of New York. It had so many. We weren't a melting pot. We were a salad bowl of all these different. Yeah, we all these different flavors that stayed separate but right on top of each other. And so that's why New York City isn't even like it isn't like I used to live in Europe a lot, and people say, "Where are you from?" America. No, you can't be an American. No. And they said, "Where are you from?" I said, "New York." Oh, that's it. And they'd all say, like, New York's another planet, you know, and it is, right? So,
Yeah.
and no matter
Yeah, it's a
how
microcosm.
yes, no matter how much it changes, it stays the same. That's the beauty of New York, right? So,
I love New York. Yeah, it's got real quality. For me, and just love to go up there when I did in the '80s with
Right.
my art group.
oh, you're an artiste?
Well, I tried.
No, you do. What is your discipline?
I mean, oh, everything, but basic. You know, anything and everything. You know,
Yeah. That's
mixed
true
media,
artist. Yeah.
mixed media.
I mean, yeah. If I brush my teeth, I'm doing it artistically.
So says Marcel Duchamp.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So yeah, I was, you know, I guess my real medium is light.
Ah,
So
okay.
I was
Nice.
a theater lighting designer. I was a photographer. I was a
Yep.
painter, and all those things deal with light. And so
Yes.
that's kind of how I see things. And when I was born, my parents lived. There were 6 of us kids, and so they had no space. My parents didn't want me in their bedroom, so they put me on the outside porch in a
Oh.
in a dresser drawer.
Well,
I mean, it had no heat, right? I don't know what they were
yeah.
thinking. And so my uncle Steve came and saw that, and he was like, "What?" And he ran a big institution. He was like the head engine, you know, make sure everything worked. And so he brought his plumbers in and put a gigantic radiators in the sunroom, and then it was like the Caribbean, right? And
Oh,
and
wow.
the steam would rise and uh, cause ice on all of the windows, and
Mhm.
you know, basically, you know, would would be my whole room would be rainbows. So that's kind of where I got started. That's,
Nice.
you know,
So did he teach you? Did he teach you all kinds of trades? Your uncle?
oh, he was pretty good, and what he did was, I have always been enamored with electricity. When I was an infant, when I was just crawling around, I stuck a knife in the electric socket, and because I wasn't grounded, I was a floating ground. I was just getting that nice little tingle in my genitals, going, "Oh, look!" And electricity was kind of talking to me, and I was just giggling. And my sister, who was always ratting me out, came running in saying to my mom, "Mommy, Albie's pluggy boom boom," meaning I was like spitting sparks. And my mother ran across the living room and she put her hand on the radiator to bend over and pull me out of the electric socket. And it blew her across the room because she was grounded
Oh my God.
by her hand on the radiator, right? So,
Wow.
and so pretty much it's always been electricity. So my uncle, when I was about 6, Olin's was like this company that made manuals, right? And he
Mhm.
had a whole series of electrical manuals from Olin from 1890 to 1921.
Interesting.
Like, and it was all old machines, like, generating stations, subways, elevators, you name it, it had it in there. And so, yeah, he gave me that, and he would take me. He was like the head guy of what was Kennedy Airport. He was like
Wow.
he kept it running, so he had to fix everything. Not him, but he had a whole staff underneath him. So I would. That's why I really started to love airplanes. And my dad was in the Air Force, so I would go to the Air Force bases with him,
Oh,
and play in the airplanes. So so my thing has always been electricity and the electromagnetic spectrum, which is everything. And so that,
yes. Well, do you think that there is a certain energy that's beyond this energy here that we know? Like, is there another like form of energy
oh yeah,
outside of
there are
what?
many. Oh yes, many, many, many. So you read guys like Rudolf Steiner, Wilhelm Reich,
Yeah.
Madame Blavatsky, Gurdjieff, Ouspensky, Tesla. They all go on about Tesla. I mean, every, oh, it just irks me. I used to work in you know building nuclear power plants and all that kind of crazy shit. And
Wow.
I once did this experiment after reading a treatise on bias and the ether. And that was from Franklin. This is why everyone thought Franklin. He was like the Einstein of his time, and um,
Mhm.
and he liked getting high, and he had nightclubs. He wasn't just printing stuff.
Yeah.
And so that little exercise he
Benjamin
did
Franklin Healthcare Club. Yeah.
when he did that thing with the key and the kite, right?
Mhm.
Tesla read that and he wrote a treatise on it, meaning about the
Really?
physics of it. Ben Franklin did. So Tesla read that, and when he was in Colorado Springs doing his experiments, he drove, a copper pipe like 100 feet into the ground. I mean, really deep, right? And then he got himself
Mhm.
a helium balloon and a copper wire, and let the balloon go up, you know, 5,000 feet. He had a lot of copper wire, and then he put a megger or a device that measures the flow of current, and it was thousands of amps and no lightning bolts or anything, but just raw current. So we could do that. We don't
Oh.
need to burn coal or oil or have nuclear power plants. And Tesla built a industrial size model of showing how it's done, and he did it in Long Island, and it was called Warden's Cliff, right? And it was a big
Yeah.
tall tower about 300 feet high, and that's exactly what it was. It was a device to absorb that energy that you were talking about, that people can't measure in the ways they know, but he harnessed it. And he
Oh,
not only harnessed it, but he was able to transmit it anywhere in the world without wires. And along that, as a carrier frequent, he could carry voice, television, visual. He had TV in the 1890s.
okay. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 0 point energy, right?
Yep, 0 point. That's exactly what it is. 0 point energy. Yep. So,
Oh,
and that is
why
what.
can't we use it? Why
Why?
aren't we using that? Like even the Tesla cars don't have that now.
Well,
They're using old-fashioned electricity.
right, exactly. And the only way electric cars are going to work. So um, Musk calls his car company Tesla, and he
Yeah.
doesn't even know. Someone asks, why'd you name it Tesla? He says, oh, one of my business managers said I should, and that is because the motors they use in their car are induction motors, right? And
Uh-huh.
once you get that motor running, it takes no electricity to keep it running.
Really?
Yeah.
But you have to charge after 60 miles or
No,
something?
no. The motor, not the current flow, but the motor.
Not the-
The motor itself,
Oh,
and that's why.
really?
Yes, and that's why in big factories, where they have 500 horse motors, or in mines, or wherever you have a big electric motor, they're induction motors. Once you get them torqued up, they hardly take any current. Just like fluorescent lights. Fluorescent lights were designed to be turned on and left on because once the only current you really use is to get them going.
Is that similar to neon lights as well as
Yes,
fluorescent?
neon's even more efficient than fluorescent. But
Mm.
yes, they're basically the same thing. Meaning there's a gas that turns into a semi-plasma once you run current through it.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
And that's what
That's
neon
really cool.
is, and fluorescent is the same, but it's not quite as exotic. Meaning, to do neon, you need a real you need a Tesla coil, basically, and to run fluorescent lights, you just need a bias transformer, which is
So they have all this technology.
we have all of that. Yep. And we don't use it, right?
Because of the greedy oil
Profits,
there in
yes, and that's what So Tesla did this in the 1890s, right? And J.P. Morgan was his bank because he wanted radio, right? And so Tesla did all this stuff to say this is going to be radio. And so when he built this gigantic tower in Long Island and showed it to Morgan, Morgan said, "Well, that's nice, but we're not going to use this." And Tesla said, "Why? This will bring peace to Earth." And he goes, "That's why we're not going to use this. We make money out of war, and you can't meter free electricity."
Okay.
And that's why we don't
Yeah.
have it.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that.
And so
That's amazing. So eventually,
we will eventually have this because we already do have it, and it's just going to be like electricity. One day had no electricity, and then we had Edison's stupid DC, which hardly worked, and then overnight we had AC everywhere, right? And so,
yeah.
and that's why. And Tesla was super duper famous, well known, rich, you name it. But once he found free energy, that's why no one knows his name,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, they do reveal those new
Right.
concepts. Yeah, because this is so horrible that has. Because where would we be now if we weren't so?
We would be where did you ever see Stanley Kubrick's movie 2001, A Space
Yeah.
Odyssey? That's kind of where we would be. And see, the real deal is there is a portion of humanity that is already there. Meaning World War
Mm-hmm.
II. Did you ever watch Captain America movies?
No.
No. Well, Stan Lee, who is the guy who had Marvel, who he made all those X-Men, Captain America, Fantastic Four, all of Marvel's universe, Iron Man. All of his comics are exactly what's going on.
Yeah, predictive programming.
Yes,
Yeah, that's amazing too.
right, right. But
But
he's being a little more straight up about it, saying, "Kids, look out for this. This is what's going on. Not like, get ready, we're going to make this happen to you." He was trying to, uh, I mean, yes, it was predictive programming, yes, but he was because he was a way more honest about it in the comic books because they were comic books. No one took them really seriously, and they were very American, So that was it. But I'll give you the short story. Captain America, World War II. We're fighting the Nazis, and the Nazis are just the poster boys. The real evil is underneath, and it was a thing called the Thule Society. Did you ever hear of those guys?
yeah,
Right.
cult.
Yes, a cult. Right, and they were very similar to Madame Blavatsky's Theosophical Society, but the Thule was more about power, and the Theosophical Society was more about um, enlightenment. But they were both the same. They were just mirrored images of each other, right? They were both really all the rest, right?
Or at any cost, right?
Yes, power at any cost. So the Thules basically had this entity called Hydra, like the head with many snakes, right? And um, so their whole thing about World War One, World War Two was the same thing, the same war, right? The same. It was a process. It wasn't a war. It was a process. And the war that's going on in Russia and Ukraine is a continuation of that process. And all the other wars that were in between were a process of taking the best out of humanity and squeezing the worst into them, right? And that's done with fear, anger, and hate, right? Instead of kindness, empathy, and self-love. So um, they basically precipitated a technological leap, and the German people lost the war again, bombed into the Stone Age. But this Hydra entity went to the South Pole, to Antarctica, and they have a facility down there with lots of people.
Yeah.
Where they found a lot of ancient technology, which is what they used, right? And so most of the flying saucers people see are theirs, right? Especially the ones in the 50s, right? And then there was a thing
There was
called
a crash. Yeah, they have an underground.
facility.
Yes.
Right. And
And there's some portal there.
right, exactly. And there are a couple portals here and there. They're not just there. And that's the thing about Earth. Earth is a very sacred, highly energetic entity, like Gaia, right? That's what we all are. We all are relations. The first people talk about all our relations. So anyway, these Hail Hydra guys, basically they've gone into every government there is. Like the United States, after World War II, we brought through Operation Paperclip, we brought 70,000 Nazis into our government, and that's why our government is the way it is. It's this entity, right? Now they're on the moon, and our moon. Did you see Star Wars?
Oh yeah.
Right. And there was the Death Star, that little moon that could blow up planets, right?
Yeah.
That's
Darth Vader.
that is our moon.
Mm.
Our moon is
Yeah,
an artificial spaceship.
Yeah, and it don't sulfur according to one of the Apollo 17, I think, astronauts.
Yes, they all were up there. They all saw it. And they were told to shut up or die. So, and they were all Masons. They all went up there knowing what was going on there. And so all of this is going on, but all of that happened during the Piscean Age. 2012, we're now in the Aquarian Age. Right? And so it's a very interesting little dance of whether we're going to be able to get to our better self. And I know we can, and I know we are, because we're still here. We should have been toast a long time ago.
Well, I thought that we're on an alternate reality.
There are many of them, not just one.
That,
There's
yeah, because I was pictures around 20 the Mayan calendar when it ends, and I thought, well, maybe it had something to do with the sun because they worship the sun. So I was taking pictures of the sun, and around about 5 years after, in 2017, the sun looked like it was disintegrating. Pictures.
Yep.
Very strange. Well, they could be here if
you're moving around. Your signal. Get to a better place. Your signal is chopping up.
Oh, how's that better? How's that better?
Oh, much better. Much better.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, so the sun's been odd.
Yes, and that's why. See, that's another thing. When I was part of a NGO at the UN in 1968 through 71 called Alternative Technologies out of Cooper Union College in New York City. And so I got to go to a bunch of, conferences that not everyone gets to go to. And there was a thing called Alternative 3. And basically they knew, guys like Newton knew what you were talking about, that things were going to change. And there was not much that anybody could do about it except to try and understand it. But at his time, when he was, the best he could do was talk about gravity. But if he went on about what he had known in his esoteric knowledge, they would have burnt him at the stake, right? So he didn't go there. So, but you read his stuff that if you go to places that aren't like Amazon, like some more interesting book libraries, and that's what I spent a good chunk of my life doing, being a researcher guy who would be allowed to go in these dusty old libraries reading stuff. And anyway, what they basically said around 2012, things were really going to change. And if people could change with that change, they'd be okay. If people were stuck and wanted to continue to be the materialistic dickhead, they weren't going to be too happy.
Because we're in 5D almost, right? Like this thing with the 25,000-year precession with the astrological 12 signs. Yep. And again, 12 is a very magical number.
Yep.
So what happened was we probably don't even realize it, but we're probably in another dimension.
Yep, exactly. I would say so. Did you ever hear a guy named Whitley Strieber? He wrote Communion, and he wrote a whole bunch of other books. And my two favorite books other than Communion, he's probably written 30, 40 books. And my three favorite is one called 2012, right? And he published it on the year of 2012. He was not a dummy. And the story is 2012 happens. Everyone's, it's the end of the world. New Year's happens, and we're still here. But what's happened is we're in another dimension, just like you said.
Yeah, there's something up there,
right?
For sure, and because that there's so many glitches.
Right.
You remember that doctor was talking about that? What is it called? The Mandela effect.
The Mandela effect. Yep.
Yep.
I've experienced it a number of times where I and a few other people experienced something, and we were in a crowd of like thousands of people. And then a few years later, only one or two of those people I was with remembers it, and no one else does.
Oh, what was it?
Oh, in Roanoke, Virginia, was was a neck of the woods where the railroads were king, and in the 1890s, a lot of the Gilded Age rich people had their farms there, just like it's kind of where Washington, Jefferson, those guys had their places. Anyway, they had their own pipeline from Texas that went straight to there and had, a tank farms for gas and oil and all of that, right? And it was always chock-a-block, and the gasoline is like 40 cents cheaper there than anywhere else in America. So I was living there, and I was working, and I was going, all over the East Coast, right? And I would drive, and I do my little projects, and I'd come back to my school that John Boy bought from me. That's how I met John. He bought my school when I needed to sell it. So anyway, um, the I was driving back in the evening. I stopped at a gas station that was about 60 miles from me, and I filled my tank because it was cheap there. So I filled it up to the top, and I stopped off at a supermarket right there, and I bought a few things, and I just drove home and went to sleep and woke up and just stayed up there to school for about 4 or 5 days, right? And so I had a full tank of gas, and I still had some food when I went down to the supermarket, and I was going to go see some what was going on downtown in Roanoke, and it was going nuts. All the gas stations had no gas. All the supermarkets had no food, and everyone was rioting, right? Rioting, and the
What
riot.
year?
Oh,
What year?
2006, maybe 2005, somewhere around there.
Huh?
A- Anyway, so I drive down to the supermarket, and it's like going nuts. And the riot police are there, and there's this policeman I know, a captain, right? It's my bud. And I go, "What is going on? Where have you been?" I said, "Well, not here." And he goes, "Well, we ran out of gas, and the trucks can't come with the food, and things are just turning into chaos." I said, "What about the rest of the country?" He goes, "We don't know." And I said,
Oh,
I said, "Well, I got food up at the school, and I got a full tank of gas, so I'm just going to drive back up home, and good luck." So I went up there, spent another 5 days, tried to, I didn't have a TV, so I couldn't watch TV. Tried to listen to the radio, and the radio was just nuts. And things
yeah.
from I normally could get from like 100 miles away, couldn't. So anyway, I wait a week, drive down, and everything is normal. I mean, normal. Like, and I said, "So what happened with the riots and what are you talking about?" And I just kind of went around and, you know, and no one
Yeah.
remembered that. And that was like last week.
That's strange.
You're right.
Wow.
Yes. And so I go, So I go, I'm not going to push this one too far. So that guy who I knew, um, who was a policeman, about a year or two later, I was at a meeting of sorts, and he was there, and I said, "So I've got to ask you a question." And he goes, "What happened the day you saw me at the supermarket and everything was falling apart, right? And no one remembers it, right?" I go, "That's right. So you remember that?" "I do. Do you remember?" I said, "Sure do." He goes, "We're the only two."
Oh, oh, wow. That's like that project. What was that? Not Manhattan Project. I can't remember the name of it now. But where they got caught in the ship because there was a
Yes,
time
that
glitch.
was the Rainbow or the Philadelphia experiment.
Philadelphia, yeah.
Right. And all of that was every really squirrely thing we ever did was the Manhattan Project, not just the atom bomb. We did a lot of, I mean, that was the thing in the middle of it wasn't the most, I mean, they were going after time travel and you name it, they were going after it because they discovered
Wow.
a thing called looking glass.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing too. The Project Looking Glass.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But they found a entity, oh, not an entity, a facility like a pyramid underground, and inside it was all this working stuff, and that the Nazis found it. These Hail Hydra guys found it in, underneath the South Pole, Antarctica. And there was
Uh-huh.
all of this super duper ancient high technology still working.
Wow.
Look,
Wow.
and there was this thing that was like
Well,
looking.
that's what CERN might be, right? CERN might be like the
Yes,
Stargate.
yes, it is
Okay.
something of that
So you're
nature,
saying,
right?
yeah. So many little Stargates. So maybe you ran into that, when you were in your town, you ran into EMP.
Oh yes, one of those because where I was living, there was a lot of that there, meaning a lot of energetic um, points of event horizons.
Oh,
And they were all the Cherokee. They were all Cherokee sacred sites. Like the school I had, there was one of those little um, entities, those windows right on. I called it the hill. There was a little cave that you couldn't, you couldn't get into this cave, but if you sat in front of it and meditated, you would go deep. Bingo, you would be in this gigantic chasm.
oh, wow. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe that. I do. I do because I've had experience with that in 1975, with seeing a UFO,
Hmm.
and it did glitch time for me, and everything stood still, like the daytime stood still. That movie,
Hmm.
what's the name of that movie? But anyway, everything stood still, and it was like I was the only person alive. It was so scary.
Yeah.
But then it went back into movement as I turned the corner of the street, and there was huge craft over it. It's yeah. Are you in the car?
Yeah, I'm in my car.
Oh, okay.
I had to
You're not
drive.
driving, are you?
I had to drive to a place that I could get the
Oh,
my neighbor. I had to drive about a mile. He lets me
okay.
bounce
Do
off.
you need to go?
No, I don't.
Do you need
No,
to
no,
go
I
now?
no. I just turned the car on to heat the car up.
Oh, okay. Okay. Wasn't sure because I'm not listening to the YouTube right now.
Right.
Um.
So I'm
Okay.
I'm still here. It was just getting a little nippy, and
Yeah.
I turned the car on because the heat's pretty good in the car. So anyway,
Oh, good. So, do you still have your trailer?
my little man cave, yeah, I still got that. I still have, but it's going to get cold here. I've had this, what I call the lodge or the deep green for about 20 years, and I bought it knowing that, when I got old and couldn't do anything, I need some place to hang out that would be cheap. My tax, I have no rent. I pay $160 a year for taxes. So that's all I have to come up with.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's something.
Yes.
It's hard to deal with. Yeah. But you seem to survive very well in your trailer
Oh yeah.
over winter.
Yeah. It's
But-
not. Yes. But back in the day, I would drive down to Florida. Right, I had a place in Florida,
Yes.
and but I had to when I died, I had to get rid of all that stuff.
Yeah, you're saying, oh my gosh, that's horrible.
Well, no, it's what happened. And there is no real
Yeah.
horrible. It's just how well you deal with it.
Yeah. I mean, it was karmatic lesson.
Well, I've died 7 times, so by the time I died in 2014, I was kind of used to it.
But that was getting you prepared for helping other people in near-death experiences, right?
No, when I was a little kid, I was really a sick little kid, so I died 3 times then. From birth to 10 years old, I died, and I was always sick. On my birthday, I would always be really pneumonia, strep throat, you name it. But 3 of those
Yeah,
times,
me too. That's funny. I would always get sick too around,
your birthday.
when I had to do something important. Yeah, birthdays or any event that was important.
Right.
I'd always get sick. Yeah.
And at 10,
Christmas.
when I really, really died, and I was being tortured by the nuns,
Oh.
I made it. I said, "That's it. I am never getting sick again." And I never got sick again. Period.
Yeah, it's a mindset too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not doing this anymore. So I didn't. So next time I
Did
died,
you ever
what?
have, Sensei, did you ever have a near-death experience where you went to heaven?
Oh yeah, 3 times.
And what was it like?
Well, in 2014, when I died in a plate of spaghetti, I came back. I kind of just popped up awake, and I was in this, kind of, a community center, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there were all these tables, and they had all this crappy decorations you'd get at like the dollar store, and everyone had balloons, and all the balloons were like the Mylar balloons, and it said "Welcome Home," and there's a
Oh,
big cake, and everyone was wearing hats, and my master Kasha K, he was standing there with the other guys and gals in their robes who never say anything, and he's looking at me smiling, and he comes over, he goes, "Doing a great job." And I said, "What do you mean doing a great job? I'm done. I've had it." And he goes, "No, no, no. You've done a really good job. You've done about 89% of what you said you would do. You got 11% to go." I said, "No, no. I'm here. I got the hat on. The balloon says 'Welcome home.' There's cake with ice cream." And he goes, "Yes, but you got to go back." I said, "No, what? No, but." He goes, "Okay. You don't have to go back. You can stay here. But you want to stay here for like eternity eating cake and ice cream and looking at the same balloons?" And I said, "So this is limbo?" He goes, "Yeah, kinda, yeah. But what you need to do, but I can't tell you what to do. It's your free will. You're the decider. You go back, you do that 11%, you do your best. You're not perfect, just do your best. You got 11%, go on back. And then when you do come back here, you'll be able to ascend, meaning not go to heaven, but go to the next step.
mhm.
And that's what this is all about.
Yeah. And like to get to eternity, you have to not have attachment here. Is that true?
That's it. But you don't just, once you lose the attachment to here, you let go of this ego, then you're given another little chore. I mean, we're probably at the bottom of the ladder,
Mhm.
Because I asked my master Akasha, "So what are you, an angel or something?" He goes, "No, no, no. I'm just on the ladder. I'm just a few rungs ahead of you."
Oh,
So
okay.
it's
And they have to cycle back. So your master, you think he was born again, reincarnated?
not in this plane, at some other plane. I mean, I don't know what the heck he's doing, or if I never knew there was no real gender there,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah. No, well, I do believe that spirit doesn't have duality, right?
Right. Doesn't have duality. Exactly.
Mhm.
So the story of the burning bush and Moses, right?
Mhm.
So if you read that, the Old Testament, the Torah, and the New Testament, if you read it in the Greek Orthodox Church, way different than King James, right?
Mhm.
And so in that book, it says, Moses up there having a good. I mean, he is happy where he is. He's like in his 40s, almost 50s. He's found a nice girl. Her father's really a smart guy. He got somebody to talk to. He's just a shepherd. That's all he does. He takes the flock out the hill. He looks up at the stars every night. He's a happy guy. And then the burning bush shows up. "Okay, Moses, you got to go back to Egypt and free the Hebrew tribes." And he goes, "Why should I do that? A, I go there. The Egyptians want to kill me. My stepbrother, he'll really want to kill me. He's now the Pharaoh. And B, the Jews, they wanted to kill me too. So screw them, you know? And he goes, "No, no, no, you don't." I said, "Listen to what I'm saying. You have to free the Hebrew tribes." I go, "Okay, so why would I do that?" And the burning bush goes, "Well, if you do that, I'll tell you my name." And that's like the big thing in those days. If you knew somebody's name, you knew everything about them. So, Moses, he's a cheeky monkey. He wants to know the creator's name. So, sure, okay, I'll do it. What's your name? And it wasn't like in the Cecil B movie, "I am who I am." Only Popeye says that. What the burning bush says, "I am a work in progress, and you," meaning the Hebrew nation, "are my reflection." So he wanted Moses to go free, and so the Hebrew tribes were not cleaning toilets. They weren't slaves. They were only imprisoned by their own free will and avarice of money, mercantile. And that's the freedom they had. They had to get out of the material world. And that's why they were roaming around the desert for 40 years to get that out of them. It didn't really work, but um, that was what
Well,
it
at
was.
least they had manna from heaven.
Right. Well, that's the burning bush wasn't going to let him starve, but he wasn't going to let him do anything else but roam around the sand pile. The sandbox.
Yeah.
And
And no promised land in sight, right?
Right.
And that was sort of like limbo for them,
right.
the ancient Jews. Yeah.
Yep. They had to choose, and so that's where we are. We're in the sandbox. That's what we're in. So, the burning bush. So I don't like using the word God because if you take it back to Sumerian, it means Baal, and Baal was the god of money.
Right. And a small G.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the name of, you're saying there's no real name that
The great creator of this dimension, it is a work in progress.
a work in progress. All right.
And we are the reflection. And the only way, and that's why it is, and it is a better name to call it, right? And that's kind of what the Babylonians call it. It is, right?
Okay. We ask a question about the Holy Spirit. What is the Holy Spirit, and
Okay.
how does it connect?
Okay, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, right? So,
Yeah.
And these are just euphemisms, in our language, right? So, Father is the prana force, the life force, right? Prana, right?
Uh-huh.
And because there is no duality, the other side of that prana force is chi. And it's like an electrical thing. So chi is the ground, and prana is the EMF.
Okay.
So that's the Father.
And are they the same thing?
They are same but different. If you can get that drift, they're the same, but they are. I mean, you need both of them to exist.
Yeah.
So they're not. There's no separation, but there's, like I said, for the flow of life, you need the EMF, electromagnetic force, and you need the ground, Gaia, chi, right? And so,
Uh-huh.
so that's Father. Son is us, the reflection.
Ah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you think we fuel eternity? Somehow we have a special God energy.
Well, that is the Holy Spirit. So
Yeah.
So basically, I keep
And
talking.
that's not of this world, though. So we have something eternal, and we don't die. Our consciousness never dies.
Right. But it's not. Spirit is not just. So you are experiencing this sandbox in your little avatar, and that's if you look at Greek, that's man god basically, and so we are spirit. That's what we really are. We don't have a soul. Our soul is really just that golden thread that goes from the top of our chakras up into our Akashic record, which is like a big server. So
right. Yeah. I liked your meditations doing that. I really enjoyed that.
Right. So that is yes.
So you're saying soul, but I've heard it's silver, and I heard that like an oversoul.
Right.
Is that what the Akashic Records is, an oversoul?
No, it's just like a big server. It's just the information is there, right? What spirit is your superconscious mind. The sanctuary.
The cosmic one?
Yeah, superconscious mind is your sanctuary. Where Father, Son, Holy Spirit are all there as one thing.
All right.
And in my guided meditation, I take you there. I bring you over the bridge of the id, and you step into your sanctuary. and you experience it because you're experiencing it as your avatar, as yourself at this moment. You experience that whole thing as a separate entity, but you feel the continuity of completion. When you step on that, you are electrified.
Mm. Is that how remote viewers do it?
Yes.
They go to the cache.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Pretty much.
Yeah.
And they're all different flavors of it, but basically, yes, that's what they're doing.
I see. Okay. So it's sort of like omniscient sight.
Yeah, and it's all you have to do is breathe. All you have to do is breathe 30% deeper than you do normally, because we are such shallow breathers, and that's why we get into trouble, because we're stuck in our egos, and when we are shallow breathing, we're just in our ego. But when we're in our deep breathing, we go into state, and that allows us to go to our imaginary mirror. That's where we have REM sleep. When we're dreaming and our eyes are zipping around, they're looking at the big movie screen on the other side of your eyelids. And so that is where you go, and you walk through that luminescent. It's like a event horizon. You walk through that, and bingo, you're in your Akashic record. You're in that big library.
And that's so where we go when we
dream,
leave this world.
Right.
And also, like, it's sort of the mini death when we dream, because everything slows down, our brain waves and everything, and we go into what is it, delta?
Yeah,
is it
delta REM sleep. Yeah, delta REM sleep.
Yeah. And so everything is at this certain electric.
Yep, frequency.
We could reproduce that, right? I bet you could make a suit like that, and
I did.
we'd be healthy.
I did.
Yeah.
I already did.
Yeah,
that.
I just made that up.
Wilhelm Reich's work is brilliant, because he was around Tesla. He's around a lot of great folk. He was in Europe when in between 1890s and 1940s, and he got out so the Nazis didn't grab him, but he came to America, and he did a lot of work for the people who were doing the Manhattan Project. And he was working while they were working at the caveman level. He was working at the higher levels of energetics. Like I said, the Manhattan Project worked on a lot of interesting things. And so he basically isolated the energetic of the human body, of the balanced human body, and that's called orgone energy.
Right, orgone. I can't remember that. Yeah,
Yep,
right. I remember now.
And he
But
developed.
that's from orgasms.
That's it is and it isn't. I mean, that is the energy that's released in an orgasm, and that's why.
Oh, is that?
But it's not quite the orgasm itself, but it's the energy, and that's why.
It's a lot more deep.
And that is the the pipeline of the prana to give that egg and that sperm cell that bang to bring in another human being, and then it's there to that's the soul. That little thread is attached. Have you ever watched a movie? They've made movies of the egg being fertilized by the sperm. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, that's amazing. Mitosis.
Right. And it's really amazing because they got it. So they see it happen, and you see that little guy wiggling his way into the egg, and the egg basically turns on like a light bulb.
Yeah.
And that is the orgone energy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the prana.
Okay. Yeah. And so that's what we have maybe in our third eye. Like, everyone's wondering, what's the third eye about?
Well, the third eye, again, is just another eyeball. And to use your third eye, you have to close the other two.
Mm-hmm.
The third eye just gives.
Yeah, we do have it turns like in the back of the head, like a look at the back of the head, which is weird.
Right. We have 6 other senses that we don't use because the other senses we do have are so crass that they obliterate the subtleness of the other six.
Do you think the brain is a quantum? I know mind is beyond, like, is quantum, but the brain is sort of mixed up between the physical reality and the quantum reality. Like, it's sort of odd. It looks like it could have been bright blue at one time.
Well, the brain is just a bowl of jello, but I think you're capturing what it is, because in the physical sense, it's just a bowl of jello. In its higher essence, it's that quantum computer. But it's
Yeah.
again, it's just this. It's not the server; it is the hard drive. That's all. Again,
Okay.
it's a mechanism rather than the thing in itself. Everything about your
Yeah.
body is a mechanism to be able
Yeah.
to kind of use all these different energies and times and vortexes for
Experience.
Right.
Experiential.
right experiential. That's why we're here, to experience stuff, not to be successful, to be a movie star or any of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, you know your stuff. I mean, wow, that's pretty cool. You've been around.
Yes, I've been very blessed to have some pretty. I mean, if I have any great talent at all, it is to like walk through the door. I've had many nicknames, and one of them was perfect timing, meaning I would just walk into things that needed to be um, um, experienced, right? And
Perfect timing. That's a musician.
yeah, exactly. It's an artist. It's the artist in the first person, the guy who scribbled the thing on the cave wall.
Yep.
Have you ever seen any real ones? Any real sites with?
Well, I know petroglyphs. Yes,
Yeah.
of course. I have seen petroglyphs. Yeah.
So
And where was that? The provincial park. They have beautiful rocks here, and here of this. The
So where is um uh let's see, I got 16% juice left. So I got about 10 more minutes of this conversation. But I like to always close out the computer without it's dying, So we have about 10, 15 minutes. So where do you live in Canada? North, east or west?
Right now, I live in central Ontario,
Oh, so
near
you're over
Lake
there in the west.
Georgian Bay.
Yeah.
In our Georgian Bay, yeah.
Yep.
North of Toronto by an hour. Yeah.
So that's on the west coast, right? Or east coast?
I'm in the middle.
Oh, you're in the middle.
We're in the Great Lakes.
Okay, Great Lakes. Okay.
Great. Yeah.
So is Toronto like east of you?
It's southeast.
Southeast, right. So where is that near in America?
What do you mean?
I mean, on
I'm sorry, I'm not that.
the border, what would be the closest American city or state to Toronto?
Oh, okay. Well, you would have Buffalo. Buffalo, New York.
So I used and Toronto, they have underground subways that run on rubber tires, right?
Yes, subways. Yeah,
Yeah.
quite modern.
Very modern, because I used to go there back in the 60s and 70s and taking guys over the border to get away from the Vietnam War.
Yeah, cheers. Right. We got them here. Yep.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and I would I had a friend of mine who had a farm that was right on. I mean, half of it, well, not half, but a chunk of his property was in Canada, and most of it was his house and everything, and barn, all that stuff was in America. And we would there was no fence. We would just walk over there, and he had a shed in the Canadian side with a Canadian license plate on it, and we would drive to Toronto. I would take them to Toronto,
Okay.
and I would hand them over to some people who would infiltrate them into Canadian society.
Those were the days, man. you grew up in the most incredible times.
Yes, born in
wow.
1950. Yep.
Yeah.
And like I said, if I have any talent, it's perfect timing to be in the right place at the right time. And
Yeah, there's something about that.
and
What do you think that is? Synchronicity, or do
Yeah,
you think there's something? How this happens is amazing. Like you meet the right people, and you're in the right place at the right time.
Yep.
How do you think that's something to do with your destiny?
yes, basically, I mean that's what my master told me. He said that when I was a car hop in Las Vegas, which was a place where Bob, the demigod, lived, and I was a car hop, and he basically took a shining to me and gave me an offer I couldn't refuse, and this is it.
What is it?
My life.
You need to be built.
Yeah, being born as Al Bob. Yep, being.
You said you're in Las Vegas. You're not like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
No, lost Vegas. It was someplace in another time and space.
Oh yeah. You're talking about the vacuum cleaner sales, Kirby, or
Right. Exactly. Yep. So
yeah.
So before I was born, before I came out of my mom's vagina, I was, a car hop in this very strange place in another dimension with a demigod. And
you were selling vacuum cleaners.
No, I was a car hop. I was parking cars.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear that one.
Right. The car hop.
But that sounds like
The car hop. I mean, the vacuum cleaners actually did happen. That was in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Oh, right.
And I kind of got
Oh,
stuck. I got stuck there, but it wasn't. I had amazing adventures there, and that's why I was there. I didn't get stuck, but.
Right. And as you went through, like, how did you end up in North Carolina?
Well, North Carolina, I was at Cornell University, and I could have stayed there, and I'd have been a happy boy, because Cornell's probably the most endowed, richest, most powerful university in the world. And they're so powerful, they don't have to they don't have to be like Harvard or Stanford or Oxford. They never blow their horn, right? And I worked in this great, interesting department that was super high technology and social sciences. And our little department tried to make sense of that little matrix between the two. And so they had an amazing library, and I had amazing teachers, an amazing boss, and I was always given really interesting projects to figure out, because I had a point of view that nobody else had. I wasn't a scholastic. I mean, I wasn't stuck in somebody's story. I was looking at what the big story was. And so I was there for 3 years, and I could still be there today, except
you should have a building named after you, because there was a guy named Kolip, and he was not a professor, but he helped Banting and Best, invent insulin and discovered. So this guy, he got a building named after him, and he wasn't a doctor or anything.
Well,
but he was a researcher.
But what he did was stick around. See, me, I always kind of split, meaning, so I was there for 3 years, and I was doing great, and everyone loved me, and they paid me pretty good, and they gave me a nice place to live. It was all great, But they have, about the lake effect, right? Well, they had it serious. They had the Finger Lakes, and you'd wake up in the morning, be 6, you'd be running around in flip-flops, you'd be in your office, you come out, there'd be 6 feet of snow.
Yeah, we have that here, snow. Yeah, big snow.
So I'm not a big fan of that. So, and I stuck it out for 3 winters, did all kinds of fun things, and had great friends and etc. And I got loads of story about that town. That's a great, Ithaca's an interesting place. Anyway, my boss,
I love New York.
My boss said to me, I can tell you want to go, but you really like what you're doing here and you like us and we like you and you could stay here forever. But I have a project that you'll really like and it'll be, and he was right because he was, he could read me like a book. So he knew that, yes, my work always enthralled me and I could always lose myself in it. And there were all these really interesting people to hang with and stuff to do. But after 3 years of that experience there, I had it. I pretty much did everything I could do there. And if I stayed there, I'd just be repeating the same stuff over and over.
Mhm.
So he really knew me. He really cared for me. So he goes, I have this project. I have a friend of mine in North Carolina, and he needs a guy like you. And I think this is your next. And he passed me on. I mean, he was one of my teachers who knew that he could, keep me around, and I would do good by him. But he was generous enough to, push me on. So I've had loads of people who did that. So he pushed me into North Carolina. I went to Asheville, North Carolina, when Asheville was like in it was like the Paris of the South in the 20s. And between
Really?
yeah, the Biltmore's built a Biltmore House, which was bigger than a
Oh,
Versailles in
yeah.
France, right?
Right. Mhm.
And so the project I was given was to go there because that whole facility had fallen into disrepair. And I went there to be part of a team that did an ethnography on it. So the federal government, the state government of Tennessee could rehabilitate that back to its great glory. So that would, because they wanted to build the tourist industry in that neck
What's
of the woods.
ethnography? I'm sorry, I'm screwed up. I don't know what's ethnography.
Ethnography is to study the psychosocial, cultural, anthropologic um, definition
Never.
of
Oh my goodness.
a thing,
You're not
a
kidding.
people, a culture, a place, right?
Wow.
That's an
That's
ethnography.
heavy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I like doing it. That was kind of it was like an unbelievable puzzle. So
That's better than abstract math.
you got it. It's way better than abstract math, right?
Yeah.
So he said I said great, sign me up. So I had a truck and I drove I went down 81 all the way down to North Carolina, got on the 40, kept going, went to Asheville, and basically, I drove in. I went to UNCA. I met this person who was kind of shepherding the beginning of it, getting the team together. And this woman came from Chicago, she was an amazing historian of that time. And she was all about architecture and fashion and style and all of that. So she and I was a photographer, and there was another person who was a library scientist who was all about making databases. So
Oh,
we basically photographed, documented, measured every square inch of that thing, and found all kinds of unbelievable stuff about it.
really?
Yeah.
Neat.
Um,
Wow, that is.
I mean, like secrets, like because they had shit like all of their fireplaces had no flues. They were like Harry Potter fireplaces.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's interesting. There's some fireplaces that are made in the States that are really, I think by Franklin. Again, he was a
right.
polyglot, so
Right.
he probably invented it.
Yeah.
And it's on a 3/4 angle, and the furnace it just heats like crazy, like really good design.
Right. And it
Mhm.
does stuff that it like physics says it shouldn't do.
Yeah.
So these fireplaces didn't burn wood. They had two metal plates with a kind of glass between them, and when you just turned a switch, they got hot. It was not connected to any electricity whatsoever.
Amazing.
Yes, and it had a bunch of
Were
things.
they made, what were they made of? Just glass?
Not just glass, some very interesting glass. Meaning, I took it apart and I took it down to my friends at Duke University and had them analyze it, and they couldn't figure out what it was.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow. Maybe it sounds like Corning or something like that. Like
Oh
new.
no, beyond that, this was
Mhm.
more like flying saucer kind of technology.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
and that was like from the 1890s, right?
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm
Back to the
saying.
Future.
We have had a technological base that has been so far ahead of whatever the frick we think we have. So,
Yeah.
so
So
okay,
there's
honey bun, I'm down to
definitely.
my um, last few seconds here, so
Sure.
I'm gonna bail. So um,
Okay.
you come on every time I come on, so you now have my phone number, right? And you can, when you see me, just
When you want. Yeah. Whenever. Sure. Like if
just
you're bored and you can't find anyone else to talk to, here you can talk to me.
well, baby, you are quite interesting, and how old are you now?
Oh, I'm old enough to be old enough.
Okay, okay. So do you have kids?
Oh yes, they're grown.
Okay.
Yes, 3 children.
And grandchildren?
Yes, 2.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So that's a nice
And a
nest.
grand-
See, I never did any of that. I never had anything to stick me in any singular place, right?
Well, you have everyone as your family. It's
Right.
just really.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean,
And
it's
I sometimes it's not blood. Sometimes that doesn't work out either, right?
right.
So it's you're always part of my family.
Oh,
I always invite you here. Like when Leonard's in my house, he's in the other room. He's bedridden, and I put on the show, and he likes to listen to.
Oh, good.
Because he finds what you say very interesting. And
Well,
so do
a lot of people watch this show like wallpaper. They don't see it
Yeah.
live. They check me out. They because people all over the planet watch this thing. So they have to work or they're asleep, and so they just kind of put it on and keep it in the background. They said, "Oh, it's much better than watching the news or the game show or anything." It's just you're back there telling stories and etc.
Yeah, I think it's to me, you have such an interesting life, and you're a most amazing person, and your writing is fantastic too. I love your writing. It's reminds me of Kurt Vonnegut's writing a little bit,
I appreciate
and I
that.
thought, wow, you're such a talent, a polyglot,
So
and you're a rare person.
see, the thing is, we are all this. We just need the gumption to go off and do it.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah,
And
believe in yourself.
because it took me 60 years to realize that I'm no different than I mean, I always thought everyone thought like I did, but they don't.
Yeah. We're all different.
Right.
Yeah, that's what makes us important because we work together,
Right.
right? And that's
Well, that's the
and
one
that's
thing
what
that
makes
human
them
beings
fun.
can do that other of our brothers and sister animals can't. I mean, a bunch of monkeys can work, 10, 15 of them can get together and steal a banana, but a million of us can put somebody on the moon, so we can do
Yeah, that's
really
true.
great stuff or, not so great. But I got to go. So I'll call you back.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
And
Please
you
do.
got to call me because I can't call Canada.
Yeah.
But when you see me
Okay, I will.
on the show, just call in.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, we'll do that.
And actually, I'm
Thank you.
if you're not watching the show,